Princess Zerelia of Tevrana stood tall on the shining balcony of the crystal tower. She wore a long silver robe, and her deep teal hair moved gently in the soft wind. Her bright green eyes looked down at the grand city below. Towers, gardens, and flying vehicles filled the sky. Everything looked perfect. But inside her heart, she was angry. The High Council of Tevrana had made a decision she could not accept. How can we join hands with humans? Zerelia shouted during the meeting earlier that day. They are weak. They destroy their own world. They do not understand peace like we do. Princess, said Elder Varen, the head of the council, your words are dangerous. Earth is not perfect, but peace must be built. This marriage will show unity. I will not be part of it, she screamed. I will not be given to a human like some. Prize. Her father, King Rachel, looked at her sadly. Then you leave us no choice. You broke the council's order. You've insulted the humans, and now you must be the one to fix this. Zerelia's eyes widened. What are you saying? You'll marry a human, the king said, but not a leader, not someone powerful. You'll marry one chosen by fate. A simple human, selected by the Unity Protocol. The hall went silent. Zerelia couldn't believe it. Her punishment would be a forced bond with a random man from Earth. The Unity Protocol was an old system used during peace-building times. It would search all of Earth and pick a single person who matched certain peace traits: kindness, calm nature, and logical thinking. The process would take only 1 day. She stormed out of the chamber, her pride wounded. But it was the law. She had no power to stop it. Meanwhile, on a floating colony near Saturn, David Reeve lived a quiet life. He worked as a systems engineer on Colony Thatnine. The colony was small, only 500 people, and focused on deep space resource management. David was 30 years old, calm and focused. He had no family, no strong political ideas, and no dream of fame. He enjoyed fixing machines and watching stars. That morning, he drank warm tea while checking engine reports. Then, the alarm rang. A royal ship from Tevrana arrived, smooth, silver, and shaped like a diamond. Soldiers walked out in perfect lines. People from the colony gathered, watching in fear and confusion. David stood at the back, thinking it was just a trade meeting, but the guards pointed directly at him. You have been chosen by the Unity Protocol, the royal leader announced. You will come with us. You are to be bonded with Princess Zerelia of Tevrana. David blinked. What? You will marry the princess, the guard repeated. By order of the High Council. David laughed nervously. You must be joking. But they were not joking. He had no time to prepare. They gave him 10 minutes to pack. He was lifted onto the royal ship, and the colony disappeared behind him. Arrival David stood inside the royal palace, feeling very out of place. Everything was so clean and shiny. Aliens with glowing clothes walked past him, whispering. He wore a plain blue shirt and dusty boots. The doors opened. The princess entered. She was tall, elegant, and incredibly beautiful. Her soft, natural beauty shined without any effort. Her skin was smooth like pearl, and her rich teal hair flowed like water. Her eyes, bright as emerald stars, stared directly into his. Zerelia frowned. This is the human. David gave a small wave. Hi, she sighed. Of course, a simple man. This is what they choose for me. I didn't ask for this either, David said calmly. But I guess we're both stuck now. That surprised her. She expected him to beg or panic. Instead, he was quiet and respectful. She turned and walked past him. Follow me. They walked through long halls filled with art and light. Zerelia said nothing, and David didn't ask questions. Finally, they reached the binding chamber, a room filled with blue flames and a silver altar. Elder Varan stood in the center. The bond will be marked today. No ceremony, no speech, just law. Zerelia stood beside David. They both placed their hands on the altar. Soft light wrapped around their wrists. It is done, Varen said. You are bound. The first night, they were given living quarters together. A large, peaceful room with 2 beds, plants, and sky view windows. I will not share anything with you, Zorelia said coldly. We may be bonded by law, but not in spirit. David nodded. Understood. He chose the far bed and unpacked silently. Zorelia stared at the stars, arms crossed. Why are you so quiet? She asked suddenly. David looked up, because I don't want to make this harder for you. That answer confused her. You don't fight back. You don't try to win me over, she said. David shrugged. I just fix machines. I never expected to be part of royal games. Zorelia turned her head, watching him for a few seconds. Something about him was different from the human she had seen in reports. He was not loud or greedy, just calm. Real? She didn't speak after that. They slept in silence. The public introduction the next day. They were brought to the great balcony, where thousands of Tevranons had gathered to see their new symbol of unity. Zorelia stood in her royal gown. David wore a fresh dark blue robe given by the palace. The crowd waited. Zirelia took the mic. My people, this is not the path I would have chosen. But the law has spoken. May this bond serve peace. She handed the mic to David. He looked nervous. I'm just a human. I didn't plan this. But I'll do my best to not dishonor her. Or your world. Some people laughed. Some clapped. As they walked back inside, one noble whispered, He's not very strong. Zorelia turned and replied, Strength is not always loud. David was shocked. She defended him. Zorelia didn't explain. That night, she sat alone, thinking deeply. Why had she done that? Ending scene later that night, David lay on his bed, reading a manual about Tevranon technology. The soft lights glowed over his face. Zorelia stood by the window, watching him quietly. He was not like other humans she had studied. He didn't brag. He didn't demand. Didn't show off. He was peaceful as the stars moved slowly across the sky. Zorelia whispered to herself, Maybe. He's not so bad after all. Life in the royal palace of Tevrana was never simple. But for David Reeve, things were even more difficult now. He was not just a guest from Earth. He was now the bonded mate of Princess Zorelia, the most beautiful, proud, and stubborn royal in the galaxy, and she wanted nothing to do with him. Since the ceremony, they had barely spoken. They shared the same living quarters, but their beds were far apart. They ate in silence. She ignored him during public events. And yet, they had to appear united in front of the people, for Tevrana's honor, for the council, for peace. Morning. Ceremony the next morning, a servant knocked at their door. Princess Zorelia. Sir David, today, you must perform the Unity Walk. The people expect to see the bonded pair walking through the lower city gardens. Zorelia sighed loudly. Another silly event. David stood up and stretched. It sounds peaceful at least I've never seen your gardens. She gave him a quick look. You will not embarrass me in public, human. Walk beside me, say little, and do not touch anything without permission. David gave a small smile. I'll behave. Unity walked. The royal guards escorted them to the floating gardens below the palace. It was a peaceful place, full of colorful trees, glowing water, paths and soft alien birds flying above. People gathered to see them. Tevranon children waved. Some citizens whispered. Others bowed respectfully. Zorelia walked tall and proud. Her long teal hair moved gently behind her. David walked beside her, hands behind his back, eyes taking in the beauty around him. Suddenly, a child ran up to them, holding a flower. She offered it to Zedra. Olais. The princess looked down, unsure what to do, but David bent down with a smile. It's very kind.
Thank you.
He gently took the flower, turned to Zorelia, and offered it to her. For a second, she froze. The crowd watched. Then she slowly accepted it and nodded. Thank you, child. The crowd clapped softly. As they walked away, Zorelia whispered, You handled that better than I would have. David chuckled. Children are the same everywhere. The first conversation that night, Zorelia sat near the window, watching the stars again. David was working quietly on his datapad. trying to understand Tevranon power systems. You read a lot, she said suddenly. David looked up. I like learning. It helps me feel less useless here. You are not useless, she said, surprising herself. You're just not used to this world. Same could be said about you and Earth, David said softly. Zorelia turned to him. I've never been to Earth. I only studied reports, mostly about wars and pollution. David nodded. That's fair. Earth has problems, but there's good in it too. People trying to fix things, families helping each other, music, rain, trees. She asked, curious. Tevrana does not have natural rain anymore, only sky mists. David smiled. Then, I hope one day you see it. Rain on green leaves. It's beautiful. They sat quietly for a few moments. Why are you really so calm about all this? She asked. David paused. Because I can't control it. I didn't choose this. You didn't? Either, but maybe we can choose how we live through it. Zorelia looked at him again. This time, not with anger, but with wonder. The crisis in the energy wing 2 days later. A problem occurred in the palace's energy wing. One of the older crystal reactors began to leak energy. Engineers panicked. Alarms rang. Zorelia was called for inspection. As a royal, she had to oversee tech emergencies. David followed her, even though no one asked him to, inside the energy wing. Wires sparked, and blue light blinked rapidly from the control panels. Engineers were shouting in different languages. David walked calmly to one of the panels. Don't touch that, one technician barked. But David already saw the problem. The overload circuit was misaligned, and the cooling flow was blocked. Princess, he said, turning to Zorelia, may I try something? She hesitated, then nodded. David moved quickly. He opened a small hatch, rearranged the crystal paths, reset the power flow, and rebooted the coolant system. The alarm stopped. The lights returned to normal, silence, then cheers. One of the engineers stared at David. How did you know that? David shrugged. It's similar to some fusion tech I worked on in Saturn's orbit. Just had to match the logic. Zorelia looked at him, her eyes soft. You fixed it. You saved us time and damage. David nodded. Glad I could help. New kind of respect that night. They had dinner together in their quarters. For the first time, the table was filled with small dishes from both Tevrana and Earth. Zorelia picked up an Earth-style pastry. Strange texture. David laughed. Try it with that blue fruit. It works. She took a small bite. Her eyes widened slightly. Interesting. Sweet, but not heavy. They continued eating. Why did you defend me in front of the engineers? David asked. Because you earned it, she said simply. You saved a royal system. My world respects actions more than blood. David smiled. I'm glad I could earn a little respect. You've earned more than a little, she replied, looking into his eyes. The first smile later that evening, David showed her an old video from Earth, children playing in the rain. People dancing in muddy streets. Zirelia watched with wonder. So messy, but so full of joy. David smiled. Yeah, that's life on Earth. Imperfect, but real. Zorelia laughed, a soft, gentle sound David hadn't heard before. Surprised even her. I didn't think I'd ever laugh around you, she admitted. I didn't think I'd ever hear you laugh, he replied, smiling. They sat close. That night, watching stars in silence, ending scene the next day. During a council meeting, Elder Varen said, the people are starting to accept this bond. Even the palace staff speaks well of it. Zorelia looked at David and nodded. We are learning, she said. David looked back, one day at a time. As they walked out of the hall, the two of them walked a little closer than before. Their hands didn't touch, but the space between them had grown smaller. Something was changing, and it was just the beginning. It had been almost 2 weeks since David Reeve and Princess Zorelia were bonded under Tevrana's ancient law. What started as a punishment now felt different. The awkward silence between them had turned into polite conversations. The distance had grown shorter, though they still lived like strangers in some ways. Something warmer had begun to grow. But peace never lasts long in the galaxy. Strange signals one morning. The sky above the palace glowed in soft purple light. The main security tower picked up a strange signal. It was weak, full of static, but clear enough to catch attention. "Unknown ships approaching the outer rings of Tavrana space," said a guard. "They are not from Earth or any known ally." Inside the council chamber, the High Elders watched the signal with serious faces. "They are using old Draven codes," said one advisor. "But their energy pattern is slightly changed. Could be mercenaries or a new faction." The Dravens were a dangerous alien group who had once attacked both Earth and Tavrana. Years ago, they were defeated and scattered. But now it seemed they were returning. Princess Zorelia sat quietly at the council table, listening. One elder turned to her. "Princess, this may be a direct threat to the royal line. Your safety is now a matter of urgency." Another elder added, "And the human, David Reeve, is a security risk. He is not trained. He should be removed from the palace until danger passes." Zorelia stood up. "No, David stays," she said firmly. "He is not a risk. He is a partner." Room went silent. No one expected her to defend him so strongly. King Regal raised an eyebrow. "Daughter, are you certain?" Zorelia nodded. "He saved our energy wing. He helped calm the people. I trust him." David finds out back in their shared quarters. David was checking data on the bonding crystal. He wanted to understand how the energy link worked. That's when Zorelia entered the room with a serious look. "We may have a problem," she said. "What kind of problem?" David asked. "Warships, possibly Draven. They're near our outer zone." David's face became serious. "I've read about them. Didn't think they'd come back." "They might," she said. "And some council members want you sent away to a safer colony." David looked at her. "What do you want?" Zorelia looked directly into his eyes. "I want you here, beside me." David nodded slowly. "Then I'll stay." Preparing for defense, the palace turned into a busy place. Guards trained harder. Ships were checked. Communication with Earth increased. David asked to help with the defense tech. At first, Tavernon engineers hesitated, but Zorelia gave him full permission. "He has a talent," she said. "Let him use it." David started working with a team to upgrade the palace shield system. He showed them a way to layer energy pulses to block older Draven weapons. "Simple logic. It's just done with precision," he explained. One young engineer smiled. "You think like a Tavernon?" David laughed. "Maybe I'm becoming one." Meanwhile, Zorelia trained with her fleet commanders. She prepared battle strategies, studied maps, and made new decisions. But often, in the quiet of night, she and David talked not just about war, but about life, culture, and dreams. A walk in the Wind Garden one evening. After hours of work, Zorelia invited David to the Wind Garden, a quiet place where air moved gently through sky chimes and long silver plants. "This was my mother's favorite place," she said. "She believed in peace, even during hard times." David walked beside her. "You remind me of someone on Earth," he said. "Older sister. She was strong and proud, but kind." Zorelia smiled. "You never speak of your family. They're gone," David said quietly. "Accident. Many years ago." "I'm sorry," Zorelia said. "I lost my mother when I was a child." "Maybe we both carry quiet pain." David nodded. "Maybe that's why we're calmer. Some people break. Others just grow quieter." They stood under a glowing tree, letting the soft wind blow around them. "You are not what I expected from a human," she said. "And you're not what I expected from a royal alien," he replied. They both laughed gently, like old friends. The enemy arrives the next morning. Alarms echoed across the sky. "They're here!" a voice shouted. "At! 3 enemy ships have entered outer space!" Everyone ran to their positions. Zorelia entered the command chamber in full royal armor. David followed, wearing a basic tech suit, ready to assist. On the screen, the ships appeared black, long, with red glowing lines. "Old Draven design, but upgraded. We must stop them before they reach the planet," said one general. Send the Silver Wing Squad, Zorelia ordered. Protect the cities. The battle began in space. Zorelia watched every move, gave commands, and encouraged her fighters. David monitored power systems, shields, and even suggested changes during the battle. They're using energy mirror. Shields, he said. Try turning our blasts to low pulse frequency. It might slip through. They tried it. It worked. Zorelia turned to him. You just broke their defense. You're welcome, David said with a grin. The attack on the palace suddenly. One of the enemy ships broke through and headed straight for the planet. It was aiming for the palace. Prepare the shield, the guard yelled. But the shield system overloaded. We need a manual reset. Shouted an officer. David grabbed his toolkit. I'll go. You'll be exposed, Zorelia said. Worried? I can do it, he said. Fast. Trust me. Zorelia paused, then nodded. David ran through smoke and alarms. Down to the power room, sparks flew, metal cracked. He reached the control panel and worked fast. He reset the core just in time. The shield went up. The enemy missile exploded. Against it, outside, the palace was safe. After the battle, the enemy ships were destroyed. The sky returned to calm. The people cheered. Inside the palace, Zorelia ran to the power room. David sat on the floor, covered in dust and smoke, smiling. You're... Okay, she said, running toward him. I made it, he said. Told you I was fast. Without thinking, Zorelia knelt beside him and placed her hand gently on his shoulder. You didn't just save a system, she whispered. You saved me. They looked into each other's eyes for a long time. Ending scene that night, Tevrana. Celebrated. Lights filled the sky. Music played. David stood on the balcony, watching fireworks. Zorelia joined him. The council wants to give you an award, she said. David smiled. I don't need medals. You want nothing? She asked. David looked at her, only truth. Are we still just bonded by law? Or something more now? Zorelia didn't speak for a moment. Then she said softly, When I first saw you, I felt trapped. But now, when I see you, I feel safe. David's eyes met hers. I feel the same. The sky above them sparkled with lights. But inside their hearts, something brighter had begun. Peace did not return for long. After the enemy attacked, Tevrana stayed alert. The skies were watched day and night. Soldiers stayed ready. Engineers kept fixing shield lines. Everyone knew this was just the beginning. But something else was also changing. Princess Zorelia and David Reeve were no longer silent partners. They worked together, spoke openly. Sometimes they even laughed. Their bond had started with punishment, but now it was growing into something real. A royal team. Zorelia was now fully active in war planning. She sat in every battle meeting, gave new orders, and listened carefully to her generals. But beside her, always was David, quiet, smart, and ready to help. Earth's strategy is different, he told her one day. Sometimes we use traps instead of direct attacks. Zorelia raised her eyebrow. Traps. He smiled. Fake signals. Confuse the enemy. Make them think we're weak. Then strike. She thought about it. That could work, if done right. Together, they made a new plan. A false weak zone was created in space. Behind it, hidden ships waited. When the enemy returned, this time with 5 ships, they attacked the open path, and they fell right into the trap. 3 ships were destroyed. The other 2 ran away. Zorelia stood tall in the control room. Victory, she said, looking toward David. He nodded. Thanks to teamwork. The officers bowed.
The bond is strong, one whispered.
Maybe stronger than we thought. Wound on the battlefield, but war does not give praise without pain. 2 days later, the enemy launched a surprise strike on one of Tevrana's outer space stations. Zorelia refused to stay behind. She took a fighter team and flew into battle herself. David begged her to wait. Let others go. You're the princess. Zorelia placed her hand gently on his. I'm also a soldier. Cannot stay while others fight. She flew fast and brave. Her ship danced through enemy fire. She took out 2 enemy crafts on her own. But then, a missile struck her wing. Her ship went spinning. her voice on the radio gone. "Zorelia," David yelled into the comms. Zorelia respond. No answer. Without waiting, he ran to the launch bay. "I need a scout ship. Now." "You are not trained for combat flying?" a guard shouted. "I don't care," David shouted back. "She's out there." He jumped into a small, fast ship and flew into the battle zone. Flames, wreckage, and smoke filled the air. Finally, he found her. Her ship floated, broken. But the signal inside showed life. He connected his ship to hers and pulled her out. She was hurt, her head bleeding. "Armor cracked, Zorelia," he whispered, holding her close. "I've got you." Door. Eyes opened slowly. "You came." "I always will," he said. Healing time back at the palace, Zorelia was placed in a healing chamber. The doctors worked carefully. She would recover, they said, but she needed rest. David never left her side. For 2 days. He sat beside the chamber, watching the lights, hoping for her to wake up. Finally, on the 3rd day, her eyes opened. David leaned forward. "Hey," she looked at him. Her voice was soft. "You saved me. You saved us first," he said. She reached out and touched his hand. "No one has ever come for me like that. Not even my own guards." "I'm not your guard," David whispered. A tear rolled down her cheek, and for the first time, Zorelia held his hand, not for duty, not for show, from her heart. Change in the air after Zorelia recovered. Things in the palace began to shift. The council noticed how close the two had become. So did the guards, the servants, the people, in markets. Artists began making small statues of the princess and her human mate. In the streets, people spoke of the bond that saved Tevrana. Elder Varen watched all of this carefully. She was angry at him once, he said to the king. Now she trusts him more than us. King Regil nodded slowly. Maybe this punishment was the right choice. A moment under the stars one quiet evening, Zorelia and David stood on the palace tower. Below, lights twinkled. Above, stars filled the sky. "It's strange," Zorelia said. "I used to hate being watched by others. I felt like a prisoner in a golden cage." David looked at her. "And now?" She smiled gently. "Now I feel free, because I'm not alone." David looked up at the stars. "You know, on Earth we believe some stars are wishes. People look at them and ask for love, hope, or peace." Zorelia tilted her head. "Do wishes work?" "Not always," he said. "But sometimes the universe listens." She touched his arm. "Then maybe the universe listened to mine." A visitor from Earth a week later. A message came from Earth. A human ambassador was coming to discuss future peace deals. He would arrive in 2 days. Zorelia asked David, "Do you want to speak for Tevrana during the meeting?" David was. "Shocked me? I'm not a leader. You are to me," she said. "And to many others now." David agreed. When the ambassador arrived, he was surprised to see David in royal clothing standing beside the princess. "You look different," the ambassador said. David smiled. A lot has changed. During the meeting, David and Zorelia spoke together, sharing how Earth and Tevrana could learn from each other. Later, the ambassador said, "If all human-alien bonds were like this, we'd have peace in half the galaxy." Ending scene that night, back in their quarters, David sat on the couch, watching Zorelia brush her long teal hair. "I never thought I'd feel at home so far from Earth," he said. Zorelia turned to him. "And I never thought I'd care for a human." They sat together. David reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. He whispered, "You once said I was your punishment." Zorelia looked into his eyes. "You were. But now." "Oh." She leaned, her head against his shoulder. "You are my joy." They sat quietly, hand in hand, as the stars above them watched in silence. The war was over. Enemy ships were gone. Tevrana's skies were calm again. For the first time in months, there was peace. The people smiled in the streets. Music played in the royal gardens. Flowers bloomed in every corner. But the biggest change was not in the city. It was inside the royal palace between a human man and an alien princess. A new chapter begins. David Reeve walked through the halls of the palace with confidence. He was no longer a quiet outsider from Earth. Now, people bowed to him. Some even called him High Consort, a title of honor. But David didn't care about titles. He only cared about one thing: Zerelia. She had changed to Princess Zerelia, still carried herself with royal pride. But her eyes were softer now. Her voice was calm. She smiled more. And when she looked at David, it was not with anger or duty. It was with affection. The council's offer one day, the High Council called both of them to the chamber. Elder Varen stood at the center, holding a scroll. The laws of bonding were first made for political peace, he said. But times have changed. The danger has passed. The council is willing to release you both from the marriage. David was quiet. Zerelia did not speak either. King Ragel looked at his daughter. You are free to choose now. No more orders. No more punishment. There was a long pause then. Zerelia stood up. Thank you, council, she said. But I do not wish to be released. Gasps filled the room. Elder Varen blinked. You wish to stay bonded? Yes, she said clearly. This bond began as punishment, but it brought something I never expected: understanding, strength, and care. She looked at David in love. David smiled. He stood beside her and gently took her hand. I choose to stay too. The council members looked at each other and slowly nodded. So be it, said the king. Let this bond stand not as law, but as love. Life together in the weeks that followed, life in the palace became brighter. Zerelia and David were often seen walking together in the gardens, visiting the science labs, or helping organize rebuilding projects after the war. Children waved at them from balconies. Merchants gave them small gifts. One day, an artist painted a picture of them standing side by side with stars in the background. The image spread across Tevrana like light. Zerelia laughed when she saw it. They've made us legends. David smiled. Well, you are legendary. I'm just your sidekick. She leaned close. You're more than that. You're my balance. Earth visits soon. Earth invited Zerelia and David for a special peace event. The idea of an alien princess visiting Earth excited the human world. News reporters spoke about the love story between stars. Zerelia wore a simple silver gown and let her teal hair flow free. David wore a formal Earth suit with a Tevranon badge. They landed in New Europe City near the Atlantic shore. Crowds welcomed them with cheers and flowers. Zerelia was amazed. Earth is louder than I imagined. David chuckled. You should see it during a sports match. He visited schools, met scientists, and joined Earth's leaders at the Peace Dome. During one interview, a human child asked, Princess, do you like Earth now? Zerelia smiled warmly. I used to think Earth was messy and wild, but now I see it as full of heart, just like its people. The room clapped, a quiet moment in nature during the Earth visit. David took Zerelia to a forest. It was a peaceful place, filled with tall trees, soft ground, and birdsong. This is where I grew up, David said. We had a small cabin here. Zerelia looked around with wide eyes. It smells green. David laughed. That's the trees. She knelt and touched the moss. Soft, cool, strange. They sat under a tree, listening to the wind. Do you miss your old life? Zerelia asked. Softly, David thought for a moment. I miss the silence, the stars. But I have new stars now. He looked at her. She smiled. I never thought I'd sit under a tree with a human, and I never thought I'd marry a princess from another world. They both laughed, then sat quietly, just enjoying the moment. Royal celebration. When they returned to Tevrana, the council and the king planned a grand event, the true union ceremony. This time, it wasn't forced. It wasn't political. It was personal. The city was decorated with floating lights. Thousands came to watch. Music filled the air. Zerelia wore a white and silver robe with golden stars. Her long teal hair was braided. with crystal strands. David wore a Tevron robe made just for him, dark blue with silver lines like constellations. The ceremony was held under the sky dome, where stars could be seen above. Elder Varen stood before them. 2 souls were brought. Together not by choice, but by law, he said. And yet they found something greater. Now they choose each other. He looked at David. Do you stand with Zorelia? Not by order, but by your heart? David looked at her. I do. Elder Varen turned to Zorelia. Do you stand with David, not for peace, but for love? She smiled. I do. The crowd cheered. David and Zorelia looked at each other with joy in their eyes. This time, when they held hands, it was not for duty. It was for forever. Final scene, under one sky later that night. After the celebration, David and Zorelia stood on their favorite tower. The city lights below danced like stars. The real stars above twinkled gently. Zirelia leaned against him. Do you still feel like this was punishment? David shook his head. No. This was a gift in disguise. She looked at him. Do you know what I've found in this bond? He asked. She held his hand tighter. Pleasure in peace. Joy in love. In a future I never dreamed of. David kissed her forehead gently. We came from different worlds, but now we share one. The stars above them stayed silent, but if they could speak, they might have said, this is what peace looks like. This is what love feels like. And under that vast galaxy sky, a human and an alien stood together, not as strangers, not as symbols, but as soulmates.